house for years. How is it possible that a Jewish settler has been living in your house for years? Go back in time.
Of course. I mean, I think there is two things to be said about Cheikh Jarrah, the then and the now. The then is that it is a microcosm of the Israeli reality, the Israeli settler colonialism in Palestine at large. It is absurd to people to hear that there's a settler from Long Island that's squatting in my house, but he wouldn't be able to do that without being emboldened by the Israeli occupation forces, by an Israeli judicial system that is inherently colonial and supremacist, and by American tax dollars. The person in my house has been there, much like many Israelis have inhabited homes that belong to Palestinians that were thrown out of them, that were massacred, that were forced to flee. And this is the situation in the entire neighborhood. You have settler organizations that are registered in the United States that are working and collaborating with the Israeli authorities to fabricate documents to throw out Palestinians. I think it's important to put in context that we are a community of refugees that is facing a billionaire-backed settler organization that is working in different countries. And what's happening in Cheikh Jarrah is not just in Cheikh Jarrah, it's happening in Silwan, where more than 800 Palestinians are about to be made homeless and 100 homes will be destroyed, demolished. It's happening in the South Hebron Hills. It's happening in Isawiyah, where the Israeli authorities are building quote-unquote national parks to behave as colonial borders to prevent natural community growth in Palestinian communities. There's many and a million ways in which Palestinians in Jerusalem are dispossessed, and sometimes it's a judicial system, sometimes it's artillery and weapons, and sometimes it's national parks. But it all behaves in the same way. I also want to just make a quick note that Cheikh Jarrah has been under an illegal blockade for the past 3 weeks. No Palestinians, not even medics, not even journalists are allowed into the neighborhood except the people that live there. And even those of us who live there are still harassed and questioned and shoved around. I've been shoved around more times than I can count, and that's been the same reality for other people. This is all happening. The neighborhood is blockaded, barricaded with cement barriers. Meanwhile, Israeli settlers can just walk in, no questions asked, and oftentimes, if not most of the time, they are armed with their rifles or pistols.
This Yaakov says, if I don't steal it, someone else will. Where does he live in your house?
So he lives, so the houses, the 28 houses of the Cheikh Jarrah housing project were built in 1956. And we have built an extension to our house in the year 2000. The extension, of course, was closed immediately upon building because 94% of building permits presented by Palestinians in Jerusalem get rejected. Actually, the councilman who rejects and accepts these permits is the same person that went viral for another video saying that their goal is to make East Jerusalem like West Jerusalem, and if it happens at the expense of the Palestinians, it's no big deal. So Yaakov from Long Island, Jacob Fauci, lives in that extension of my house and has lived there for, I think, a decade now.